Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Unit Lost. I am Josh, and this time we are going to be talking all about the Overwatch World Cup, which wrapped itself up, or at least the first group stage wrapped itself up over in South Korea with a fine first group. 3 realistic chances coming out of the group, 3 not so realistic chances in that group. Of course, South Korea, Finland, and Russia going up against each other, and also Hong Kong, Japan, and Chinese Taipei were involved. Japan were okay last year in the World Cup, but against South Korea, Finland, and Russia, with only 2 people leaving the group, the good money is on South Korea, Finland, and Russia, of course. So, what are we looking at the moment? Well, we waited for the weekend just to sort of finish itself up, and the best games by far came out of this series, South Korea versus Finland. Also, a touch of controversy, which I might touch on later, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Okay. South Korea were, of course, the team to beat, and the big question is, can anyone stop South Korea? They have the best players, like the majority of players in the Overwatch League are South Korean. They had the pick of players for their team here. You're basically looking at most of MYXL, for example, in this team. No surprises there. They were pretty much the best team throughout the Overwatch League, throughout most of it. Of course, Philadelphia Fusion and London Spitfire winning out towards the end. But Finland going to do something which is not too surprising if you know the Finns, which is they're going to be running the GOATS comp. So I'm gonna draw my terrible GOATS. If you aren't familiar with GOATS, it is a comp that has been rocking the pro scene. That's a terrible GOAT. It's an unhappy GOAT at that. It's a comp that's been rocking the pro scene because it is, triple support and triple tank. It is a very, very simple composition, right? It's very, very straightforward. You just sort of run at people. You find the most immobile target on the enemy team, something like, this nice goat mecha robot thing over here, and you run at it, and then you beat it up and kill it, and then you just stand on the point. You get yourself a nice coalescence, nice and early, throw out all that healing on your team, and you're looking rosy. And if you need a little bit of extra firepower, well, you're going to have a Graviton Surge to play around with as well at some point. It's pretty good. It's pretty well-rounded. The issue with GOATS is that it does have sort of an upper limit. If you know how to beat a GOATS comp, which isn't easy, but if you know how to do it, you'll be able to beat them pretty reliably. Now, South Korea, in theory, are a team that can do this. Absolutely, in theory, are a team that can do this. I will say, though, that Finland as a nation, right, They have players that basically were on a team called Ninjas in Pajamas, and they pioneered like this tank-heavy playstyle. They pioneered what was originally quad tank, which is sort of the proto form of GOATS comp. Now that Moira's in the game, GOATS comp, Moira and Brigitte sort of opened up GOATS comp as a whole. So you can see, though, as I said, they found the Orisa, they ran it down, they killed it. Jonak did manage to get onto Zappis, but honestly, Finland in a good place. Shaz is most of the way towards his coalescence. They've got the players on the point, so now South Korea have to run in and contest, and every time they do, they're going to be taking a boatload of damage. Big Goose actually does something really cool here. I think they show a replay of it at some point, which is that he does go and sort of freeball it. He just goes away, he just runs away from the team a little bit, hunts down a couple of low hit point targets, which is something you can do on Lucio. You got to be careful when doing it, you got to be a little bit clever. Don't like run at a McCree or a Brigitte Lindholm. You've got to say it properly, otherwise everyone goes mad in the comments. You've got to get it absolutely right. So there, you can see Big Goose sees that the Widowmaker's on low hit points, goes, finishes them off. Nothing too dramatic here, just going and finding these sort of slightly vulnerable targets and getting the finishing blows. Because honestly, in GOATS, only 2 things are kind of mobile, which is Big Goose and Zappis. Now then, a couple of interesting things have happened. One, Fate is on the ball, the Wrecking Ball. Carpe's also on the Doomfist. Doomfist was buffed relatively recently. This is on patch 1.26, and that Doomfist buff is in the game, where he does get a lot of extra shields now. So if you hit a comp like GOATS, which is all clustered together, if you hit everybody in it, well, then you're going to get a ton of shields, and you're going to be basically unkillable by the GOATS comp. The big danger, of course, of running Doomfist into GOATS is, well, this. Yeah, this was a very, very telegraphed jump. I don't think you can afford to be that telegraphed when Taimu's just a little licking his lips and waiting for his opportunity. But, of course, South Korea's team comp is not without multiple threats. Libero is in the sky on the Pharah, and one of the best counters to a GOATS comp is a well-played Pharah. It's very, very difficult for the GOATS comp to deal with it. Basically, you can only send D.Va to try and kill it, and if the Mercy is supporting the Pharah, the D.Va isn't going to be able to collect that kill. So Libero can build up barrages for free. He's probably not going to kill people with the rockets on its own, but he will be able to build up barrages non-stop and then just use those basically to collect some kills. Now, the Wrecking Ball is also a nice little counter, but it does leave one major vulnerability. Something I pointed out when I mentioned like how a pro is using the Wrecking Ball and he's being used predominantly as a main tank is that you have to respect the Reinhardt a lot. more. What this means is that Fraggy gets in, gets a free Earth Shatter, and manages to catch up most of the team, and that just turns into some easy kills. It's kind of rough. It is kind of rough, and you got to deal with that. You got to expect that. Finland actually in an okayish position at the moment as well. They have a Graviton Surge going to the next fight. Of course, Jonek has been sitting on that Transcendence, so it's going to be a big factor of if they can get value out of this one. Libro's Barrage also needs to be spot on and perfect to really turn this into a bunch of kills. And unfortunately, Libro's ult kind of isn't. And while the Transcendence is good, Finland do this really well with their Goats comp, which is using what we call the Bigger Bang combo. So you have the Big Bang attack, which is the Tracer and the Zarya combo, and then you have the Bigger Bang attack, which is the Diva and the Zarya combo. Finland really, really good at doing this. The fight kind of does end up devolving to this chaotic mess, but Fraggy's just in the backline, like beating up supports. You can see him in the distance there, having a whale of a time, just beating up a Zenyatta, and it's honestly not really in doubt for Finland. They can even just commit the Brigitte ult, because why not? It lasts forever if you know, even if you don't use that armor, it's still good. It's not like using a Lucio ult that just burns off. No, you still have the armor coming out the opposite side of the fight, so it's still all good for Finland. They managed to complete second in pretty good time, still 4 minutes left on the clock. Now, South Korea in an awkward position, but Finland, honestly, even more of an awkward position, I would say. Goats on third point actually struggles a little bit. The weakness of Goats is that it has poor vertical mobility. Basically, it can't get onto high ground very easily, and South Korea are going to move to a Widowmaker and going to stay on the Pharah for a little while Goats is still being played. And as a result, Finland can't really do anything. They can't touch the Mercy, who's staying around on the high ground. They can't really touch the Diva until she comes down to low ground. Libro's untouchable, Carpe's untouchable, and the angles that are available to you here on third mean that Carpe will get sightlines onto stuff like the Lucio, onto stuff like the Moira, and we'll be able to land a couple of shots. Now, while Ghost does have poor vertical mobility, our boy Wrecking Ball seems to want to help out Linksa there, and does actually manage to sort of shuttle him up to the high ground. Luckily, at the end of the day, Libro just still gets that DPS out, still does manage to land a couple of juicy rockets, and will take out the enemy. But I think as Carpe was a little bit worried there, you know, Linksa was on a high, pretty good charge up there, and that's kind of scary, staring down the barrel of a Zarya particle cannon that's highly charged. Imagine that's quite intimidating. Anyway, Finland do change things up, go to the double sniper, which is, honestly, like, Finland as a team basically do have two team comps, right? They basically run two separate things. They'll either run Goats, or they'll run double sniper. And when you have Taimu and Linksa, two of the best snipers around, like Taimu has incredibly good hit scan, Linksa has incredibly good Widowmaker skills, and honestly pretty good projectile skills as well overall. Both of these players have good aim, right? Both of these players can take over a game, and you're seeing the results of that now, where they're just getting these opportunities, springing forward, and because South Korea were a little bit slow on swapping Libero, basically the Pharah, if the enemy team goes double sniper, the Pharah becomes very, very limited, and on third point as well, Pharah tends to struggle because it's a little bit more enclosed, so the Hanzo swap was a little bit late, and it's now gone to Tracer sort of out of desperation to be able to lead the spawn aggressively. This will help them out in terms of just breaking out at the very least, so they will just be able to rush their way out. Good Diva Bomb to cover the offensive there. You can almost see Big Goose as well falling off the map, but good guy Taimu is there to pick him up. But by the time this all happens, it's already too late. South Korea have sort of sprung their way out. The nice thing about South Korea's comp is it's very agile and very aggressive, which is actually quite nice at punishing a double sniper comp. With no form of crowd control, Fate can basically do whatever he likes, Meko can get where he needs to, and Libero can actually help finish off targets. Libero, of course, is sneaking off to the side there, almost has a pulse bomb. Now, Finland, like, the nice thing about Finland is that Shaz has this Transcendence, so you're thinking, okay, well, they can just engage with this Trance. Like, they're not saving the Transcendence for a Graviton Surge or anything like that, but Libero does something insane. It's like, it's the perfect storm. Look, he didn't even one clip him. He basically used 3/4 of a clip. It's insane how much damage Libero just did, and it's the perfect storm of Zenyatta actually ruining his own life, because Zenyatta, when he fires up a charge shot, he puts his head forward, and Libero just shot into that. And it was just the perfect storm that killed Shaz. South Korea then take the opportunity, run forward, cover the corpse so Big Goose can't res. Even with Valkyrie up, it's still too risky to go for the res. They can't get Shaz back, and as a result, well, now they're in this desperation push mode. Fraggy tries his hard out here and actually manages to tie up a lot of resources on the back line, but Ark just comes in with the save, uses Valkyrie, means that there's no real threat to Jonak there. Even though there is like a Winston just bullying him around, it's still not really a huge threat. It does give Finland a little bit of room to maneuver, but now they can spring back, use the Transcendence, cancel out what Shaz was trying to do as well, keep everybody alive, and slowly burn down Finland for, well, just to finish up the map. Fade's going to go in, bounce people up, deploy some mines as well, I imagine, at some point. No, he's going to keep hold of them, apparently. He wants to save them for next round, apparently. Who knows? That's maybe the line of thought here. That's not really the line of thought here. Don't post comments. Right. But yeah, this match is basically over at this point. And there we go. Overtime. Oh, there's the mines. Beautiful. Just in case anyone dares touch the point. There we go. Now, South Korea managed to win that one by honestly playing the newer style of gameplay, right? If you got a chance to watch sort of either some of the show matches that have been happening or you got a chance to watch the Korean finals, this is sort of some of the stuff that you saw. Stuff like Wrecking Ball coming in to fight Goats, Wrecking Ball being used very aggressively, and it's good to see South Korea doing that. And this is one of the questions I sort of have going into round number 2. And the question is this, ladies and gentlemen. How much of this is just South Korea and Finland, well, especially Finland, not really adapting to the new meta? If you watched Finland's playstyle throughout this entire group stage, Finland really did just stick to basically what amounts to the previous meta. Now, a big part of this is because this group stage in particular is very, very close to the end of Overwatch League's finish. And a lot of players that were in Overwatch League, like most of Finland and all of South Korea, well, they had no basic break. They had no time off, so they basically took a little bit of time off after the end of OWL. As a result, teams didn't really have too much time to practice, but South Korea especially innovating a little bit there. I want to pause just to take a look at South Korea's comp because I find it really, really interesting. So South Korea's comp is actually sort of an old school dive, right? You have the Genji Tracer for the natural dive components, and you have this Ana as well coming in. Winston and D.Va, of course, just forming the last part of the dive components, and the Mercy as well for that extra res value. Of course, this is also before Mercy was nerfed, so she's still really good at just spot healing as well. This team comp is something that has been run quite a lot in South Korea, and it's basically predominantly used against the mono support comp. And this is perhaps what they were expecting, where you just run a Mercy, and instead of the Zenyatta, you would have a Roadhog. The idea is that you use the nano boosted Genji to go in and basically surgically remove the Mercy, and then slowly but surely kill out the enemy team. They will just run it against this team comp, however, against this double sniper as well. And unfortunately, Finland make one key positional error in my mind at this point, which is that Linksa and Taimu basically just end up at the same place. You can see them sort of in the back left there. Now, they do get a nice kill onto Jonet, but of course, that's possibly just going to get rezzed, so it won't even matter too much. Even if they don't res it, though, you can see both snipers now completely cut off, completely sort of blocked for damage. Both supports also end up in a corner, and the damage just comes through. The dive just all confirms onto that single point, and everybody on Finland, instead of being spread out, or instead of having like a crossfire, instead of anything like that happening, they just get completely nullified by the D.Va, by the Winston. There's no damage left. There's nothing to counter these two dive DPS, and, well, everyone just gets slaughtered. A nice bit of also tactical crouching just to round it up. He's already dead. Stop it. Stop crouching all over his face. Stop popping some squats. Right, okay. So, South Korea, the nice thing about this team comp for South Korea as well is, of course, the momentum of it really does continue to flow. Finland, though, do a nice little thing here as well, which is swap Linksa onto the Brigitte. If the enemy team is running any form of dive, like even if it's just like a Genji or just a Tracer, Brigitte should absolutely be on the table. If you're playing in ranked and you're like a DPS player and you're unwilling to go, and you're going, I refuse to play Brigitte because I'm really stubborn, just keep in mind that you are probably losing games because of it, right? Brigitte is that good against dive. She is that good against Genji and Tracer. She will infuriate them to no end. The amount of people I've had come into my stream chat and just rant about Brigitte and about like, oh my god, she's overpowered, she's too strong, she ruins my time playing Genji. Like, she destroys them. If Linksa is willing to play, then you should be willing to play Brigitte. But of course, and this is exactly why. Like, this is a very telegraphed engagement by South Korea. They commit the nano boost early, but luckily for South Korea are still South Korea. They're still really, really good. And so with just a simple use of the D.Va bomb, they actually managed to continue to win this fight. So even though their big combo, the nano blade, just does get countered there by the Brigitte just by waiting and catching it with a stun, it doesn't actually matter too much here because South Korea can just then continue the fight. They commit an extra resource, the D.Va bomb, which the enemy team doesn't have to counter with, and they just collect a couple of easier kills. Carpe builds up a Dragon Strike at the end of it as well, which is quite nice for him, and then just commits it straight away. I think he's looking to try and cut Shaz off, maybe push Shaz towards his team there just to get an extra kill, but Shaz just quite wisely backs away. Doesn't really mess up there at all. Shaz actually had a pretty good time of it overall, I would say. I'd say he did pretty well. Unfortunately, that does mean that also Finland do get a nice bounce back. Jonak, well, he knows There's no hope there. There's no hope there for just a lone Anna. Meko getting stalled out as well. So it's a little bit feels bad, man, but it still ends up happening. Okay. South Korea going to change things up even more. They ditch the Anna, they ditch the Genji, bring out the Pharah for now. And they will be looking for a little bit of that. We have a nice shiny replay of some spicy Hanzo gameplay. Just spamming some arrows around. This is kind of what you'd expect out of the Hanzo. It's kind of what you're looking for. Okay. So Finland playing a very static team comp at the moment, just going to be playing a very, very centralized around the point, except for Taimu, who's going to be bouncing around. This is the sort of stuff that Widowmakers should be doing, especially on the second part of King's Road. Look for occasional angles. Don't be afraid to flank a little bit away. Don't go like miles, but you can definitely bounce away a little bit. As long as you have that grappling hook, you can get out pretty safely, and so you should be putting that to work, right? You have this very high-power mobility tool, right? Taimu's getting the most use out of that by taking these little bit of a risky flank, but as long as he has that grapple, he's going to be A-okay, so he can get away with doing that. So that's just exactly what he's doing here, and you can see the results of it, right? That one pick onto Jonak, is gonna put a dampener in the ability for South Korea to actually engage. There he bounces out. He's nice and safe. The enemy team tries to commit to him. He bounces away. The rest of his team swings in, and now they can start getting onto Fate, punish and kill Fate, and there you go, another one team fight for Finland. And this is looking pretty good, right? Finland, you expect them to do well in these double sniper instances. Taimu and Linksa, as I mentioned before, two of the best snipers around, so this is kind of what you expect out of them. The issue, again, that I will raise with Finland is that they are playing what feels like previous meta strategies. We didn't see I don't think they played Sombra once during the group stage, and she's definitely creeping into the meta. She's definitely something that seems to be popping up more and more and more. I think they did touch on Wrecking Ball. They might have picked him up at one point, but very, very rarely if they did. Like, they predominantly stuck to Goats and double sniper. At some points, they did play also a bit of Tracer Widow, but it's very rare to see them do anything else. So, again, very much sticking to the previous meta. And the concern that I have going forward is this, which is that if you give South Korea more time, and South Korea now have nothing but time, because Contenders is over in South Korea, Overwatch League is over, so now these teams are going to be doing nothing but practice for the World Cup, basically. Well, they're just going to get better and better and better and better. And if all you can bring to the table is Goats, that's going to be a problem, I think. So hopefully for Finland, of course, have exactly the same thing. They'll be able to practice the new meta, practice the new strats. And I think this is just a side effect of how close this series is to Overwatch League. What do we practice? Well, Goats are still good. Let's just practice a ton of Goats, practice a ton of double sniper, or practice a ton of sniper Brigitte, and then go from there. So looking back at the game, South Korea done basically a mirror comp, or pseudo mirror comp, I suppose. They've gone double sniper themselves, and now they're going to be looking to pressure out Taimu. Taimu, though, he's missed a good aim, so kind of concerning. You've got to be very careful with him, but there we go. Carpe goes on the flank, finds the shots, finds the kills, and now South Korea, while the Mercy's rezzing, while all this is happening, South Korea have an opportunity to actually start pushing forward, actually start making inroads, because the Mercy's busy rezzing, she's not busy healing, she's not doing anything like that, so you can use that to sort of leverage your tanks going forward, take better position, which is what they've done now, and actually surround the point. Very nice use of the bomb there, managed to surround and kill Linksa, and now it's just everything's going South Korea. Everything's coming up South Korea, which is what you would expect going into this. I will say that Finland had a pretty good time, overall. Finland look good here. They look pretty good against going up against toe-to-toe against South Korea, which is nice to see. I think I will use this moment now, as they set up for third, to touch upon the controversy in this series. So later on in this series, Rialto unfortunately suffers some technical issues. I think the way they rectified it took them a long time to do it. I think the first thing I want to highlight is that the two casters were left talking for about 15 minutes straight, doing nothing but filling, which is insane. And as a caster myself, I don't think should happen. My God, those poor people. Everyone in chat's going, "Start the game, Resident Sleeper." Blah, blah. Trust me, those guys want to be in the game probably way more than the people in the chat ever do. Anyway, right. But yeah, they managed to resolve it. They managed to sort of keep Finland with their advantage as well, completing Rialto and running forward. So I don't think it really had much impact on the game. I know some people are like, "Oh my God, South Korea, they came back into this series just because of the disconnect. It threw Finland off." I don't think that's the case. And honestly, any pro gamer, as much as it sucks to say, if you are a pro-level gamer, you will be used to the idea of a technical issue perhaps influencing the game slightly. It is just part of playing video games. Things crash, things disconnect, it happens, you need to be able to deal with it. It's an unfortunate part of the skill set, but it is part of one. Now then, Zappis with a hero bomb just completely destroys this next offensive, and this is an important offensive, right? You can see South Korea are now scrambling to change things up. Finland managed this hold extremely well, and part of the reason why I didn't highlight too much of it is because it is just pretty straightforward, double sniper against double sniper. Taimu and Lynx are hitting their shot. Zappis with a beautiful Diva bomb that shouldn't have got as much value as perhaps it did, but just managed to catch a couple of people a little bit flat-footed, a little bit out of position. Very nicely placed Diva bomb, sort of right in the middle of the sort of first corner, I suppose, catching a couple of kills. And as a result, Finland actually take King's Row. The series overall is extremely close. I highly recommend that you go and watch it. It is a pretty good one overall. I suppose the big question I had to ask is, what did you guys think of the World Cup overall from this first group stage? Personally, I felt a little bit disappointed. I'm used to Overwatch League. I'm used to it being sort of high production value, super high production value, with a desk and all this other stuff. And we didn't quite get that, which makes me a little bit sad. I think that, Blizzard probably could do better with this. Otherwise, that's going to be it from me, guys. Thank you for watching to the end. I have been Josh, as one voice amongst many, here over on the Unit Lost channel. And I'll see you guys next time. Toodles.